Real feminism is empowering femininity, empowering your heart to sing, empowering yourself to dance freely in your authentic expression. That's real feminism. Real feminism is not becoming men, becoming the force that subjugated you for millennia. But the psyop of feminism is you are a feminist if you become a man, if you become the masculine energy that so dominant and destroyed you. Real feminism is being brave enough to be feminine, to be wildly brazen about your trust and your intuition, to sing with love in every interaction you meet. Don't dumb that down because you're a feminist. Turn the volume up all the way up. That's real feminism. Turning the volume all the way up on your own feminine expression. That's the truth. Feminism has become masculinism. That's crazy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the New Age Sage podcast. Today's one is a very important podcast because I'll start with this question. What's the most important decision a human can make in life? Now, your brain probably goes to many different things, right? Like, do I have kids? What job do I get? Do I choose to be nice to my family? But I guarantee you the paramount one that tops all of them bar none is the partner you choose to commit to. This is exemplified by everyone's experience of life. Think about the worst moments of your life that was all caused by devastation or heartbreak, or the people you know who are absolutely destroyed by divorce. And we don't take this thing seriously enough. If we took this fact seriously enough, that the partner you choose to commit to is the most important decision you make, because that dictates your experience of life. Because if you're always with someone who demeans you, shames you, and abuses you, you begin to have that reality be your reality most of the time. Your partner kind of lifts you up or put you down. Most people pick someone and puts them down. So we all know this is an important thing. We all see the devastation of divorce. We all see the devastation of abuse, of split, of heartbreak, of realizing your partner's a narcissist and healing from that, of being shamed by someone we love. We all seen the devastation of that. Yet the vast majority of us still choose to entertain that dynamic over and over and over and over again. Why is that? Why is it that all of us know this fact, but we keep jumping in the fire? So, to give evidence to how this occurs, I'm going to get vulnerable for a bit and explain my experience with a quote-unquote, I don't use the word toxic, but not the right relationship. Well, first, let's sit with you first before I go on my own diatribes. Think of your life when you've been in a deeply unhealthy relationship and feel the amount of anger you carried, the jealousy you carried, the shame you carried, the painful hope that you wish this person would change. Now, feel how much those emotions caused by the toxic relationship tainted your experience of life, that you lost the connection with the magic that life brings because of the toxicity. So we've all been through this, and you got to get real with yourself to feel like, man, my experience of life when I was in an abusive, terrible relationship also made my life outside of that terrible and abusive. The energy of the union is what creates the energy I go into life with, right? Angry men have an angry wife. Angry women have an abusive husband. It's just the way life works, Show me someone truly happy, and I will show you someone who did an excellent job at choosing their partner. That's life. Show me someone miserable, and I'll show you someone who did a crappy job choosing their partner. Sit with that and go about life with that. Look at your friends who are kind of depressed and miserable, who are in a relationship, and see what's that relationship like. Okay, in terms of my experience with this, I used to depend on women for to feel the sensation of love, right? I thought that love was out there somewhere else with someone else. That once I attracted this super hot, beautiful girl, I now can access love. That my heart's fragmented and split, and she's a missing piece, right? And we're indoctrinated with these Disney, rom-com movies are entertaining, but we believe them as literal matter of fact when it comes to romance, and they indoctrinate us to believe that my heart's completeness is dependent on someone else being the missing puzzle piece. But what happens when we do that? What happens when I did that? When I did that, I felt so rejected and unworthy because all of me depended on them for my own sense of power and my own sense of confidence. So if they were distant, if they didn't want to talk to me one day because they're avoidant, and I attracted a woman who blew hot and cold. So if this woman didn't love me the way I exactly needed, my ego needed to feel safe, I then immediately felt devoid of love, rejected, ashamed, abandoned, and unworthy. So, and that was most of the time because my expectation of who she was and who she should be was not who she was and who she should be. But I held on to that hope because she gave me glimmers of that I saw, oh, maybe she'll be this one day. And we all fall into that trap. But the most important point here is that choosing that partner who loved me conditionally because I love them conditionally, because I didn't even love them. I loved an idea of them, and I needed them to be the idea to feel love because they held the keys to my heart. And that perception wasn't even them. So my whole experience of love was, I don't feel worthy of your love and all love because you keep not being the woman I need right now. And that was the experience of love. But then that completely tainted my experience of life. I was at dinners with my friends I hadn't seen in years, and because my ex didn't answer the phone or wasn't, being as communicative as my ego needed, I would sit there in a state of panic and anger. I had to masquerade and be cool. Whenever this person would go out partying, I couldn't trust it, so I'd be sitting at home, an anxious mess. I'd be literally trying to watch a movie with my sister, and I would feel a little panic because I couldn't trust her. So my life was constantly this panic and this terror and this anger and this jealousy because I needed this person to feel loved because I didn't love myself. And that tainted my experience of, it destroyed my experience to enjoy life. Furthermore, it destroyed my artistic ability because an artist's best pieces of art are when they are singing their heart from the most authentic place in themselves, period. And if your heart's not open because it's closed in these moments of toxicity, and you're in a state of self-shame, and you are riddled with anger, how can you possibly create the art you're meant to create? Sure, some wounded artists had toxic relationships. Where did they end up with that? They may have created a couple cool songs, but they're either dead or overdosed on drugs. So my purpose as a man to help others wasn't able to come through as authentically because I was riddled with pain, anger, and jealousy and trauma all the time that I was stuck onto an illusion of love. And that destroyed my ability to be to do my job here, to help as many people as I can. Now, I'm not saying this to be a victim to all this. I'm very happy I had experiences like this. They were all beautiful in their own ways. They had many good things because they helped me see where I was stuck in shame, where I had rejected parts of myself, where I didn't feel worthy of love. I had to face those things to heal myself and become the one that is love, not the one that needs love. And that's a real thing. Are you the one that is love, or are you the one that needs love? When you're the one that needs love, you'll attract people who fit that need. But when they're not there for you in the way you want, you'll then immediately feel devoid of love. But once you are love, it's constant. So I had to go through all those things to realize I have to become love in myself first. And then I'm unbreakable, unfuckable, unshatterable. I don't know if that's a word. I'm saying all this to exemplify that this shit's real, right? And we don't like, and it breaks my heart because so many of us are stuck in it. We all seen friends who are stuck in this. You know, consider the amount of friends you've had, especially women who are a shell of who they used to be after divorce, or they're in a toxic relationship, and you just see the light of them zapped out. It's such a common experience to witness our friends in, and we've all seen it. Don't be that person who loses your light because of the darkness in someone else and because of your choice rooted in trauma to pick a bad partner. So, in a way to remedy this situation, I'm going to answer 2 key questions to help us get to a place where at the end of this podcast, you'll have the tools to not only select a good partner, but realize what in yourself caused you to have the potential to not choose a good partner. So the first section of this podcast will essentially be, why is it so catastrophic and so common for people to choose terrible partners? Why is it really so bad? And why does it happen so often? Next, we will dive into what steps, habits, and protocols you can undertake to remove any chance of possibly attracting in someone who dims your light. So at the end of this podcast, you will understand why this happens so often, why it's so common, why it's a common human experience, and how to make sure it's an experience you'll never have to go through again. That's a big guarantee, but I'm shooting it. Okay, why is this experience so common? And I honestly believe it's much more common for women, sadly. And since all you listeners are women, this will be targeted towards women. If you're a man listening, you could also learn a lot from this as well, because this all comes from the wisdom I'm speaking comes through the wound I've experienced. I channel through my wounds. So this all comes from my wounds, my wounding as a man to realize the truth. Okay. I believe almost every woman, bar the ones who somehow meet their high school sweetheart, divine lover early as a kid, and they don't have to go through any of this, and that I believe they earned that right through karmic situations where in past lives they arranged with their partner to have that experience. But most of us have to heal before we have that, before we feel worthy of the love of God. And that means we have to heal a lot of shit until we realize that we are worthy of unconditional love. And unconditional love is God. So we all have to go through many processes to face what's blocking us from believing we are unconditional love or worthy of it. Okay. The most common experience in women I see is a woman who shines super bright, radiance. You're around her and you feel beam with light. This woman tends to attract a man who initially meets her there, who she sees, wow, this guy can really not only handle my brightness, but loves it, cherishes it, and creates space for me to even shine brighter. But then over time, she suddenly starts becoming a shell of who she used to be. This man who once honored and allowed her to shine bright and brazenly, her vibrancy and this brazen confidence is now subdued and her self-worth is destroyed. We've all seen situations like this. The woman who says, I found my perfect guy, but then years pass and she's a shell of who she used to be. She's no longer confident. Her light has been zapped. She's in shame. She's depressed. Why does this happen so often? What's happening here? Why do these bright, beautiful, divine, feminine women attract in men who initially seem so amazing, but then years pass and the woman is a complete shell of what she used to be? Why is this? Why is this so damn common? So there's a lot of explanations for this. I'm gonna have to go deep into the psychological, spiritual, mythological, unconscious weeds to answer this question, because it's a genuinely huge question. Because this is why. A woman shining brightly, being fully connected to her womb, which is her intuition, and radiating unconditional love, that force is the greatest threat to the negative polarity that attempts to control our heart's expression through the patriarchy we find ourselves in. So enemy number one for the energy that wants to subjugate us and dominate us and control us through the patriarchy is a woman who is fully empowered in her wild feminine and opening her heart to a place where everyone can feel her love. That force, that divine feminine force, is the energy that is the biggest threat to the system we currently face. If everyone felt that unconditional love of the divine feminine, there would be no wars. There would be no financial pillage and raping. There would be no subjugation, slavery, and sex trafficking, and all these terrible things we find. That's all under the consciousness of the negative polarity, which I will explain in a second. But the force of the divine feminine is the force that defeats the matrix. It is the force that teaches all of us that we do not have to separate and control others to feel the sensation of pride and egoism, that all we need to do is remember we are one, and to share that oneness with the vibration of love. That divine feminine force is the greatest threat to the patriarchal control we face currently, and that's why so many divine feminine women are the targets of this matrix, because they are the people that bring the system down. And if you are the people in power of this system, the energies that be, the demons that be, the literal actual humans that control it, whatever it may be, you're a threat. And what do these people do with threats? As we know, they neuter them. Mission, that's the mission. So, this sounds like, what the hell is this guy talking about? This guy's insane. But let me explain deeper to give complete. This sounds like I'm just speaking up my spiritual woo-woo ass. I will give evidence for why this is the case. This is not just some woo-woo theory that there's a negative and positive polarity in this world, and that negative polarity hates the divine feminine. This is fact. And I will explain why. First, let's understand the positive and negative polarity in the reality we find ourselves in. The negative polarity wants to dominate and control others to ingrain their concept of being separate from the one, which is divinity, which is the fact that we are all one, we are all love. So this energy leads to the feeling that I am greater and more powerful than others, which is the ultimate form of separation from oneness. Think about it. If I feel like I'm above you, I'm separate from you. Right? So that's the beginning part of the negative polarity is I want to dominate and control others to feel like I'm greater than, because feeling greater than is the feeling of separation, of being separate from God, separate from love, and separate from oneness. And if you think I'm being woo-woo, you can't argue that those who are evil in life, the Putins of the world, the Hitlers of the world, the dictators of the world, the narcissists in the music industry, the creepy evil managers who control their clients, the Diddy's of the world, the Epstein's of the world. You can't tell me that consciousness is not at the root of these people. It's the same thing. They're all operating under the construct of the negative polarity, which wants to control and manipulate others to gain a sense of power, because power is the force that separates us from God. Because we believe we are above everyone, and that's the opposite of divinity. You can't feel like you're above someone and you have control over someone and be in a vibration of love. It's impossible. Lastly, the negative polarity gains energy through taking it. They need the food source of energy from others to fill themselves up. They take, which means they will manipulate people to take their life force. Again, if I use the example of the evil music managers of the world, they will manipulate their clients to take from them, and from that taking, they feel more powerful and above them, and they further negatively polarize to become more and more evil. Or someone like Diddy, who says, hey, you can have all this abundance and riches, but you have to apparently, have gay sex with me first. And gay sex is great. I'm not gay, but I'm not saying that to shame gay sex. I'm saying that that's the negative polarity is I give you what you want, but I'm taking more from you in the process. So it's gaining energy through taking. For example, a dictator, Stalin. I feel powerful by taking everything from you all, taking all your money, taking all your love, taking all your hope. I feed off that energy, and it gives me a sensation of power because I have power over all these little ants. Okay. Now, what's the opposite of that? That is the positive polarity. The positive polarity does everything possible to enhance the sensation of oneness through unconditional love. There's no desire to control anyone or subjugate anyone, just pure love. That's it. If someone who's positively polarized wants to go into business with someone, it's always a win-win. It's how can we both succeed and get close to our dreams and love? I don't want to take from you. I want to give to you, and I want us both to benefit from that giving. I want to help someone. I want to give, and this is the other thing, is they gain energy through giving and serving. The positive polarity gains polarity and energy through service, through helping. What was Jesus doing all the time? Jesus was being of service, helping everyone, going to the drug addicts, the prostitutes, the whatever may be perceived as the people most in pain, and he'd serve them. And that's how Jesus became Jesus. Satan became Satan by taking from others as much as possible. So the two mythological forces our consciousness are derived to relate to, I'm not a Christian, but it's a powerful archetype, is Jesus became Jesus through helping as many people as possible. Satan became Satan through taking from as many people as possible. Think about the quote-unquote satanic contract mythology. It's, I'll give you what you want, but I'll take more in return. Jesus was just giving with no expectation of anything in return. And that's the positive polarity and negative polarity is symbolized by Jesus and Satan. And those same symbols are repeated throughout all mythological stories, which is Jesus, I gain through giving with no expectation of gaining. I just do it because I want to serve. I want to help. Negative polarity, I give to take, and I only give because I want to take more in return. And that's what leads to control, manipulation. And there's no desire for control, manipulation in the positive polarity because they just want to give with no expectations. When you want to give your heart with no expectations, right there's no possibility to manipulate or control someone because you have no expectations. Once you give with the expectation of something in return, you become manipulative. So you are the energy of Christ, the energy of the positive polarity, when you give without any expectation to receive anything. You become the satanic energy when you give with the expectation of getting something back in return that's more than what you gave. So this is the core battle that exists in every mythology ever. Any myth where it's some like good versus evil, which is most myths, fantasy myths, sci-fi myths, action movies. Think of Star Wars, Marvel, the Bible, the Quran. I mean, the Bible is the greatest story ever told. I don't believe it's literal fact. Call me a heretic. It's not literal fact. But the mythology in it, the archetypes, the characters in it, it's an amazing story. And that story is the core of almost every myth is a reflection of the Bible. That's what's important to read the Bible because it's not fact, but it's the story that our brains molded to, that our psyches over millennia learned to use as a way to learn morals. Every mythology ever, as I explained, Star Wars, Marvel, the Bible, it is a battle between those who want to enslave and control and dominate versus those that desire freedom and oneness. If this is at the core of every myth ever told that is rooted in fantasy and good versus evil, you don't think this is part of our reality too? You don't think there's a battle between good and evil? The myths we relate to the most tell the same story over and over again, which again is the force of those who want to enslave, control, and dominate and take versus the force that wants freedom, love, oneness, and to give. Light versus dark, Star Wars. Thanos versus Avengers. Avengers want to serve and give and create love and oneness. Thanos wants control, domination, to take everything. Again, Satan, Jesus, it's the same damn story. Now, you can believe there is a literal psychological war of good and evil in societies. Even if you're not esoteric, you can see and believe that. But deeper, We are in a spiritual war between these two factions of positive and negatively polarized souls. And this spiritual war has been happening since the dawn of mankind in this dimension and every other dimension as well. The most positively polarized souls are those who reflect the divine feminine, who radiates light and love without any limitations or shame. That force is the force that heals everything and everyone. If you are unconditional love and you love everyone, you want to serve and give and heal, that energy, if everyone became that, there is no negative polarity. That force of divine feminine unconditional love is the opposite of the force that wants to gain energy through control, manipulation, and taking. So the more the divine feminine rises up, the more the negative polarity loses control. So the war we are currently facing is literally a war on the feminine at all costs. And the negative polarity is smart as shit intellectually. They're pretty stupid, EQ-wise. That's why they always lose. Intellectually, they'll create these traps for us to believe to further push their agenda. For example, I do believe feminism is a psyop created by the negative polarity to teach women that your essence as a woman is essentially how masculine you are. Become a man, and that's how you prove you're a woman, right? And go be a boss baby in the corporate world. Go f a bunch of guys. Go be controlling and dominant and control men and manipulate them. That's the same energy that's destroying us. It's a psyop. Real feminism is empowering femininity, empowering your heart to sing, empowering yourself to dance freely in your authentic expression. That's real feminism. Real feminism is not becoming men, becoming the force that subjugated you for millennia. But the psyop of feminism is you are a feminist if you become a man, if you become the masculine energy that so dominant and destroyed you. Real feminism is being brave enough to be feminine, to be wildly brazen about your trust and your intuition, to sing with love in every interaction you meet. Don't dumb that down because you're a feminist. Turn the volume up all the way up. That's real feminism. Turning the volume all the way up on your own feminine expression. That's the truth. So feminism is real. I believe in feminism, but feminism should be feminine energy. Feminism has become masculinism. That's crazy. All right. Since this force is such a grave danger to the negative polarity, women who are in the divine feminine are public enemy number one. They're rare. It's rare to meet a woman in a society who hasn't been brainwashed to be a feminist in the feminist way of being masculine, not feminine. These kinds of women are the greatest threat to the awakening. That's why I believe that the force that will save us from this current dominant matrix of control and subjugation to evil, the force that will set us free is feminine energy. It's not masculine energy. It's a divine feminine energy. That's the force that is deeply imbalanced. We have enough masculine energy, trust me. Look at all the war, look at all the anger. We need some feminine salvation. So that's the threat. Why am I saying this? Divine feminine women who radiate their light are targeted by the negative polarity because they're the biggest danger to the system. So these kinds of women tend to attract men who trick them into becoming a shell of who they are. Now I'm going to explain how it happens. This sounds like a lot and weird and crazy, but it's real because it's so common. Almost every woman I've met who's divinely feminine and in her light and has the potential to be the force that takes over the matrix and this weird system of patriarchal control, that woman's almost always entertained a relationship with a narcissist who almost destroyed her. That's real. And whether it's just like an individual agenda of someone in the negative polarity just wanting to like take that away, or it's the actual collective system of negative polarity operating through that person to take you down, both are true. I will explain how. So let's first talk about the individual psyche. Okay. What kind of guy does this? What kind of guy tricks a woman into believing he is as bright as her, but then through that tricking, she falls in love with him and he then pushes her down all the way to nothing? What's happening here? So we have to further unpack the psyche of the negative polarity, which is those who reside in negative polarity. If they see someone shining brightly, they make it their responsibility to bring them down. It becomes their mission, even without them consciously knowing it, to squash their light. Because the brighter it is outside, the less darkness can exist. And if you work for the darkness, you don't want brightness. Similarly, if you work for the brightness, you want to shine light in all the darkness. Again, the light gives light to the darkness. The darkness takes light away. That's why the words are so powerful, because that's what's happening. The dark negative polarity takes light. The light, the positive polarity, gives light to the darkness to help it shine and come into the light and not into shame. So, as I mentioned, people either gain light or gain energy by giving that energy away, giving the light, or by taking it. So if you're a woman who has a lot of light, bright energy, and you radiate it, you have a high potential to attract in a man who wants to siphon the energy off you as a food source for him to take it and become more powerful himself. Negative people seek out bright, positive people to take their energy away from them because that's how they gain power. Negative people need to feel separate and greater than to survive, so they will take your energy to further give themselves power, right? Again, the negative polarity takes to feel powerful. The positive polarity gives just to give and spread light. So when you shine bright as a woman, you are public enemy number one to those who are negatively polarized because they gain energy through taking light. And because you shine so bright, they will trick you into believing they are a good person so they can take your light and siphon your energy off you for years. And most women sadly go through this experience. This sounds like you're in some weird sci-fi evil horror movie, but it's real. It's true. Negative polarity dark people are energy vampires. It's just the way it is. These negative people, their survival, their sustenance is dependent on feeling powerful. And their power is generated by taking energy and taking life force. Sadly. These men want to make these radiant women power batteries for their darkness. And the darkness is separation, feeling power. They will use your light to feel their darkness. Energy is energy. Energy is energy. It can be used for negative or positive realities. For example, when you experience trauma, you can either use that energy to positively polarize and be of service and help others, or it can use the same energy to become a victim and do things out of vengeance and revenge to feel separate and greater than. Right? If you're someone who's experienced severe racism and abuse, you can use that to try and help people who are experiencing racism and abuse to find a way out of that system to have a potential to experience a beautiful life. Or you can use that same energy to be a victim, complain, and dedicate your life to being a vessel of hate and anger towards a system that destroyed you. But when you become anger, hate, and separation and fear, you become that same energy that destroyed you. So, as I pointed out, energy is neutral. Life is neutral. The way we take the energy in is dependent on whether we want to negatively polarize or positively polarize. So, I fundamentally believe, and this is controversial, but I'm in an era of speaking my truth, even if I don't want to, because I'm scared of being judged. And I fundamentally believe that the higher intelligence of the negative polarity targets the most vibrant souls and tricks them into toxic relationships with people who siphon their energy as a food source. That sounds like a lot, but it's real, right? The negative polarity has a deity. just like the positive polarity has a deity. There's a hyper intelligence to the negative polarity that understands and sees the potential threats to their system of control and enslavement, which is the divine feminine energy. And they will basically operate through these pawns of evil, narcissistic, dark people to convince them in whichever way they want to target these women and siphon their energy. I know this is truth. I've seen it. The most powerful women I've known have been through this over and over again. They've been targeted by this negative polarity because they present such a deep threat to that system. Because when a woman is in her divine feminine and she unconditionally loves herself, anyone she's around and touches becomes unconditional love in that moment in her presence. So that force in her is enemy number one to the negative polarity that seeks to enslave us. So she ends up attracting in men who make sure to dumb that energy down, so the negative polarity has a higher chance of further pushing the system of control and separation. Because if everyone becomes the divine feminine, that force is done. I have talked to countless women who have developed the bravery to leave a relationship with a narcissist or a dark person, and all of them literally say they have gained 1,000 times the energy they had after the relationship ended. Their energy went way up. What happened there? I believe these women were targeted by the negative polarity, by narcissists, to have their energy siphoned off of them to fuel the darkness of the narcissist. All these women said they had infinitely more energy after the relationship ended. So what the happened there? Why did they have no energy when they were with a dark person, a negative person, a narcissist? Because that person siphoned their energy off of them to fuel their darkness, to fuel their power, to fuel their separation, to feel powerful. And that's the sad reality we live in, is these narcissistic dark men seek beautiful, divine, feminine, radiant women to siphon the energy off of and to feel the darkness. So you got to watch out. You got to watch out. And the way to do this, one of the first physical way, I'll explain the spiritual ways because this is a spiritual war. When you repeatedly have sex with a man who is dark, selfish, wants power over you, wants to control you, is a narcissist or has narcissistic tendencies, he puts hooks into your aura and your body, and the energetic core to your womb is further tied stronger to him through the process of sex, which means the more you have sex with him, the more he has an opportunity to siphon your light off you to feed his darkness and to feed his power. Stop having sex with dark men, because dark men use sex to siphon your light off of you. Demons love sex because sex is the easiest way for them to latch onto a light person and take the energy away from them, because you are tying a core to their womb. Your womb as a woman is the key to the queendom of your divine intuition and your divine feminine. And if a dark, toxic guy has a core to your womb through sex over and over again, he can siphon all your intuitive power to his darkness. So stop having sex with dark men, because those dark men will use sex to create a core to your womb to suck all your power out of you. So don't do that. If you were just having sex with the guy because he's hot and mysterious, don't take that risk. Don't do it. Because that's how they create these hooks. Only have sex with men you highly vet, who you can feel their heart. That's the number one. If you can feel a guy's heart, then it feels real, and it's not some trick and mask, and he's vulnerable and honest. You know, those are the ones you kind of want to give more priority to. To create further evidence of how this happens and why I believe the souls who reflect the divine feminine the deepest are targeted, I'll explain some stories. First, I think of the people in life, the artists who just touch the hearts of so many people. Amy Winehouse. I think she was a drug overdose or something happened to her because of a toxic relationship, from what I remember from the documentary. That woman's music touched so many women's hearts and made them feel empowered. Anthony Bourdain, Kurt Cobain, Marilyn Monroe. So many amazing artists who had the potential to wake up the hearts of many other people just by their presence in their music and their acting. Their life got ended by toxic relationships. And the case study I want to present that exemplifies this the deepest, in my opinion, is one of my favorite, if not favorite musician, Elliott Smith. This is a wild story. I'm going to tell a story for a bit. Story time. So get ready. Don't take a nap yet. Elliott's music does something to my soul that maybe only one other band, Radiohead, does. But his is deeper. When I hear the song Angeles, I am literally transported to infinite love. When I want to feel infinite love and I'm stuck in separation and the negativity in myself, that we all have, that's our responsibility to heal. I put on the song Angeles, or I put on other music. When I was a drug addict and I was getting sober, I was facing suicidal ideations nonstop. It was the worst I ever felt in my life. It was the worst experience of my life, bar none, by miles. I played his album, Either Or, on repeat during this journey, and I believe that album had a core part in saving me from death, because it opened my heart enough to not give up on myself. So this artist's divine feminine expression as a man in his music saved me and opened my heart in the darkest of times. I would blast his music, tap into my grief and depression and sadness, and alchemize it and release it with love. So his music means the world to me because it saved me from leaving the world. And I know many people, my dad included, who have the same connection to Elliott Smith. And because I'm intuitive and sensitive, I can feel his energy in his music and his lyricism that reveals the intricacies of a deeply sensitive soul who's sweet, tender, and has a very, very sensitive heart. And because that tenderness exists in him, that's the force that is spoken in his music, and that music awakens the hearts in so many people still. I believe he's one of the greatest artists of all time. Now, he's dead. He ended up stabbing himself in the heart due to a toxic relationship. And the case is a little tricky. So this is from a police interview. His girlfriend claimed that after the argument, she went into the bathroom and heard Smith scream. When she entered the room, she found him with 2 stab wounds to the chest, one of which was fatal. However, the location and depth of the wounds were inconsistent with a typical suicide by stabbing. There was also no evidence to suggest that Smith had a history of self-inflicted wounds of this nature. So there's a lot of evidence that it's a really interesting case, because there's enough evidence to suggest that it could be either or. And his album was called Either Or, crazy coincidence, but I can't firmly say by reading all this, I can sense that it was one or the other, which is even a crazier example of how this is a reality, that either he stabbed himself in the heart, which is when you kill yourself, if you're suicidal, you'll probably, shotgun blast, gun to the head, boom, out. Who the stabs himself in the heart? Imagine your heart being so torn and broken that you stab it. What? Or his partner stabbed him in the heart. And when you stab someone, I haven't stabbed anyone, but just from watching movies, it's like a quick fight and you go in the gut. To grab someone and stab them in the heart directly, that's a wild demonic move to just go straight for the heart. So either he did it himself, or his girlfriend, who was with for a long time, I think, did it to him. Both reveal the same issue at hand. That one of the greatest, most soulful artists who had the capacity to wake up the hearts and divine feminine in the most people was taken out of this incarnation because of unhealthy love. Unhealthy love led him to be stabbed in the heart, either by himself or her, which led him to not create the music that could have been used to make all our hearts sing. This is the case study because it exemplifies what I'm talking about. That the most positively polarized souls who are sensitive and have the capacity to scream infinite love to the universe and to wake it up in others, they're target number 1 for the negative polarity. And they will be used or sacrificed to make sure it's not a possibility. If you're watching this, you're probably a starseed light worker who is part of the positive polarity, who wants to give love. Your light and your radiance is so needed. Your heart's expression is so needed. Your authentic self is so needed that I demand you to please stop giving that to men who just want to abuse it and take it from you to fuel their own power and sense of control and domination. Don't do this. Please, don't do this. It's not worth it. It's never worth it. Don't fall for this trap, please. Only entertain men who let your heart sing to the highest note. All right. Now to the final portion of this podcast. What is the solution? The negative polarity looks for energetic hooks rooted in trauma to latch onto. What does that mean? I'll display this through my own hooks. My core hook that I'm working on healing, that is healed enough to know when it's being attempted to be latched onto, is this core belief that I've had in this lifetime, many lifetimes, that I am not worthy of love. And because I'm not worthy of love, I feel I'm not worthy of love. Not anymore, I used to. I would then attract in women who blew hot and cold because them being super into me and being all pretty and beautiful and hot and sexy and kind and then running away made me fall into this trap of like, I have to prove to them again that I'm worthy. So I go chasing after them or do whatever I can to get them back over and over again. It's like constant flip-flop process because this unworthiness caused me to believe I have to prove my worth through getting a girl to love me and bringing her back from the separation. So I attracted a woman who capitalized on this hook, who blew super hot and cold with me because that experience siphoned my energy off of me to feed their sense of grandeur. So what was once a radiant light and loving expression of myself now became a shell, and I was very dormant in my energy because this constant flip-flop of hot and cold took all the energy away from me and gave it to them. Because when someone's in a position of blowing hot and cold, they're triggering your unworthiness to then put you in a state of complete dissolution and destruction, and they can then take all the energy that you used to have. So I was energy siphoned off of by this pattern of blowing hot and cold because that was a hook I had to prove to myself that I am worthy of love. This destroyed my connection to the heart and to express myself authentically, which meant I wasn't a possibility of being the expression of the divine feminine. So my potential threat to the system was subdued by this experience. I became a shell of myself with no heart, no authentic love for myself, with no energy. And that is the mission of the negative polarity, to do that to souls like us. So because of that, we need to look for the hooks we possess that have the potential to track in a bad person who will siphon our energy off of us. So I will list out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will list out the 5 deepest hooks I believe women can have that lead them to potentially attract in men who siphon their energy off of them. The first one, which is probably pretty obvious, but it's not for most women nowadays. This is trend against it, which is weird. But if you believe in female submission, that is probably the biggest hook I can present right now. So if you're a woman and you believe that I, as a woman, am beneath a man, therefore I need him to control and guide me wherever he wants me to go, because who am I as a little woman to believe I am better than a man? And it breaks my heart that so many teachers in this space are teaching women that this is the ideal way of being, that being in your feminine, that feminine empowerment means to be worthy of masculine submission. Women are taught nowadays that being feminine means being in submission to the masculine. That's the most unfeminine thing I could ever think of, because the feminine is the connection to the intuition. And if you're with someone who gaslights your intuition to favor what he wants to do at all times and to make you do and to subjugate you to control, that is not honoring your feminine. That is repressing and burning your feminine in favor of a man who wants to siphon your energy off of you. So women like this essentially have no developed masculine side. They have no boundaries. They have no structure. They have no routine. They haven't been able to show themselves, I can guide myself and lead myself to be a boss woman, to fully trust my intuition, and to make myself a person that can capitalize and express my art and my business acumens to be a human, right? And this goes awry when women just become that masculine energy. But women need a balance of both. That you have to create structure and routines that allow you to sing and express your heart, not create a life that pushes down your own expression. So when a woman has this inner self, or she has boundaries, she can lead herself in certain ways. She can create structure for herself to express her art. She now destroys the possibility of attracting in a man who controls her, because she now is the healthy man for herself. And when you are the healthy man for yourself, you're not a magnet anymore to a man who's broken. If you're a woman who believes that being feminine is submitting yourself to a guy, you are blocking off your intuition through giving him all the keys to your queendom. And when you give him all the keys to your queendom, which is blocking your intuition in favor of his ego's need for control, you are blocking the intuitive power you need to know when to run the away. Women stay in abusive relationships when they deny and gaslight their intuition that's telling them to run away, because they've given this man the access to their intuition through believing I should submit. Don't submit as a woman. Don't do it, because it means that I deny my intuition in favor of his logic, and his logic is tied to the darkness. So the solution here to heal the hook of female submission is understand female submission is not the way at all. Develop your own masculine side, and once you become that energy for yourself, you realize this is a way better way of life than projecting it to any man that comes my way, because any man who believes he should control and dominate you and make you submit is a guy who will siphon your energy off of you as a woman. Put an end to it. Next one. Self-worth issues. How does this play out? If you're a woman who has a low self-worth, which means I don't feel worthy of love. I don't feel worthy of love from a good man. I don't feel worthy of love. And I don't feel worthy, essentially, because I'm ashamed of myself deep down, and I reject parts of myself that I don't want to look at. So if you have this hook, you give yourself the opportunity to become dependent on a man for approval. So this means that you can fall for their charming compliments. And they can love bomb you, right? Because if you are given compliments by a man who you perceive as hot and sexy and amazing and successful, and he love bombs you, you are like, oh my God, who am I to receive these compliments from this hot guy? Who am I to say this guy loves me? And you start realizing, oh man, and you start attaching all your self-worth to this person because you believe you're not worthy, so you need him to feel worthy because you don't feel it yourself. So his compliments and his love becomes a way to feel this confidence you never had, which means he can get you by being super complimentary, love bombing you, and then after a month, pulling it all away and giving you morsels of it, because he now knows that your self-worth and confidence is dependent on his words. So you can pull back those words at any moment to make you feel insecure and like, he's not telling me he loves me. He's not telling me that I'm beautiful. And then he'll start like trickling it back again to reel you back in. So he'll see you be super angry and separate and insecure. He'll give you a compliment to give you back in, and then pull back. It's the most common pattern used by the negative polarity for insecure women, is to love bomb them and give them compliments to only remove them, to make you addicted to their approval, because you don't have your own sense of self-worth. So to heal this, figure out what sides of yourself are rejected, accept them as part of you, and love them. Because what makes you feel unworthy is the parts of yourself that you feel ashamed of, that are always worthy of love, because you are love and you are beautiful, you are God's child. And Furthermore, when you don't love those parts of yourself, they create potential points of shame that create a feeling of unworthiness. And that feeling of unworthiness is the hook of which narcissists and love bombers use to trap you into a state of inconsistent validation to make you dependent on them for their validation. Whew. Spitting bars here. Okay. Next, and this one isn't really talked about enough. This is love without discernment. This is not my idea. This comes from, I added some to it, but it comes from Jordan Peterson in his book, We Who Wrestle with God. He astutely argues that the prime feminine sin is infinite compassion without discernment. This is exemplified in the myth he chooses to show it by Eve's choice to trust that the serpent must be good because he has good intentions, that he's telling me to eat this fruit and he's telling me it'll help me, so I'll do it because this snake feels good, right? And that's the experience of most women, is the narcissist is the snake that's tempting them to become separate and insecure and to eat the fruit and to be tempted, because women believe that he must be a good guy, right? And I believe this quality in a woman of infinite compassion, infinite love is a gift. But you can have love for everyone while also seeing their truth. You can see a snake as a snake, have compassion for them, but choose to not follow it to hell. So you can look at a narcissist and say, you deserve love. You are worthy of love. You're God's child. But I see the truth in you, that you feel insecure, you're ashamed of yourself, and you need control. I love you, but I'm not following your intentions and life path because that's not in alignment for me, but you're still worthy of love. That's combining love with wisdom, and that's what women actually need, is women who have infinite love and no discernment end up extending that compassion to people who abuse it and use that as a way to hook them into siphoning the energy off of them. So this extends out to toxic relationships, mainly because a narcissist or negative polarity infused person will use trickles of vulnerability and authenticity to break down a little bit, to say, oh, my mother did this, and no. And they'll make women wait weeks until they show this, because then they can use these vulnerable moments for a woman to look at and say, oh, he must be a good guy. He's vulnerable. And then because he's vulnerable, she forgives and excuses his poor behavior and stays with him. Furthermore, him showing his vulnerability tricks you into believing that he will become that one day, right? A female's misguided love and compassion is believing that I can save and fix this guy because he showed me his vulnerability and his love, he'll become that one day and be this authentic, loving person. That's misguided love. Real discerning love says, I love you, you're worthy of love, but you are manipulating me by masquerading vulnerability as a way to trap me into believing you will become this good person when you're not. So you cannot save anyone, period. All you can do is see them for who they are and to believe that and use that as a way to realize, what should I do with this person? Should I be with them? Should I not? That's the way. So woman, you got to have your wits about you. Even though your instinct is to love everyone and be compassionate, that has to be integrated with wisdom and discernment to believe that, yeah, everyone deserves my love, but love is also truth. So I have to see the truth in this person and see, yeah, I love this person and they deserve compassion, but I'm not on their timeline. I'm not going to do that. Okay, so the penultimate hook. Fear of being alone. Most women will tolerate shitty relationships because they're so terrified of being alone. And narcissists and negative polarity people will see a woman who's terrified of being alone, and that's a prime target because they can fake being this good, nice guy to fall in love with. And because enough time will pass with that mask that you will start becoming comfortable with him and you'll fall in love with him, that he will then turn on the jets of being a shitty person who siphons your energy and makes you dumb down and takes your light away, because he knows that since you're in love with him and you don't want to be alone, that you will never break up with him. So a woman who's terrified of being alone is the kind of woman who falls into a toxic relationship and refuses to leave it because she'd rather be with someone toxic and comfortable than being alone. So the ultimate way to heal this potential is to understand that being alone is a beautiful thing, because being alone means that I can sit with myself and love myself and learn about myself, and understanding that that reality is much better than being with someone who destroys you. How does one do this? How does one fight their fear of being alone? Hold your own company with love. There's a quote by Sartre that is, if you're lonely while you're alone, then you're in bad company. I used to get lonely all the time because I was bad company, because in those lonely moments, I would talk to myself in a way that was shaming and aggressive and saying, you have no friends, you are not worthy, what the hell are you doing here? Stop doing this, you're a loser. Once that narrative subsided and I became the voice of love and awareness and gentleness and tenderness, I now have no issue being alone. I'm equally fine being alone than I am with a group of people I love and a cool event. I really couldn't care less, because I am good company for myself. I am the person I'd be excited to go for coffee with. And the way you become the person you're excited to go to coffee with is talk to yourself like a friend you'd love to go to coffee with. If you don't talk to yourself like a friend you'd love to go to coffee with, you will be the kind of person who refuses to be the person worthy of going to coffee with, because you are talking to yourself in a way that is very abusive and shaming. So hold your own company with love. Stop talking to yourself like you are a drill sergeant abusing you. And once you start being okay with being alone, when you see that side of a man that turns on, that's becoming abusive, you realize, this guy, I'd rather be alone. And that's the most powerful thing as a woman. The most powerful thing as a woman is to believe that I'd rather be alone than in a situation where the relationship has become bad and toxic and hateful and he's controlling me. I'd rather be alone in this shit. But if you're terrified of being alone, you will not see the possibility of them being toxic because you're so terrified of being alone. So this hook is big. This hook is big. Last hook. The need for emotional intensity and passion to feel love and to entertain a potential union. So a belief that reflects this is a common belief in most women that I hear and see, which breaks my heart, is that guy is too good for me. Even if he's a nice guy and kind of a beta and doesn't feel masculine, no woman worthy of a good guy would end a relationship because she believes that he's too good for me and uses that as an excuse to end it. If you're saying he's too good for me as an excuse to end a relationship, it's because you don't feel worthy of goodness. If you don't feel worthy of goodness, you don't feel worthy of love. If you don't feel worthy of love, what kind of life are you living? So if you're someone who believes you're not worthy of a good person, you're just not a good person. If you're not a good person, you have no business trying to find love. So do what it takes to become a good person and feel like a good person, because once you are a good person, you'll feel worthy of a good person. Furthermore, the belief that a guy is too good for me is also rooted in the fact that you are addicted to the experience of toxicity and highs and lows as a prerequisite to be in a state of love. What does that mean? The addiction to love is essentially this. You're with someone, they're hot, they're cool, you have explosive arguments, you separate from love. You have an argument, you run away for a couple hours, you work out, you get angry, you talk to your friends and how much of an asshole your boyfriend is. You come back home, you have amazing sex. You say, I hate you during sex, and he's like, no, baby, you love me, and I love you, and you're one again. And the next day, you have an argument, you look at his phone, he's texting some girl, you separate. You separate from love into fear and separation, and you go back to oneness. Separate oneness. Those are highs and lows. And people need that passion in that separation and coming back and forth to feel love, sadly. To break this pattern, you have to realize that you are one. You are love. You don't need to separate and come back to feel that love, because it's always here. The heightened love you seek in a toxic relationship is always here right now. Love is always here. You don't have to forget love to remember it again, to experience it. That's what these toxic relationships are, is having to forget love to remember it again, to come back to love. And the more toxic, the more you separate from love and come back. So that's the highs and lows of toxic relationships, is really separating from love, from arguments or abuse, and then coming back to love again, because you can't experience love without forgetting it constantly. But there is no such thing as forgetting love, because you are love and you are always love. And forgetting is an illusion you create to entertain the possibility of separation. And that's a big hook, because these narcissistic men are masters at creating the process of separating you from love and going into insecurity and shame, and then bringing you back into love, making you addicted and dependent on them to feel a sensation of love and oneness. So break that hook. To put a positive spin on all this, because it may seem like we're in this evil battle against demons who are going to beat us constantly and siphon our energy. That's partly true. But what's more true is that these moments of being seduced by people who are absorbed into the negative polarity, who want to control and dominate you and siphon energy off of you, going through those experiences help us see what beliefs and traumas are holding us back from our infinite potential of being infinite love. For example, I had to go through those relationships that made me feel separate and unworthy to see the belief that I was not worthy of love. If I didn't have the mirror of a person reflecting back my self-worth, low self-worth, and my inability to feel loved, I would have never seen it. So the universe will present us with people who match our vibration of love. That if I don't feel worthy of love, I will attract someone who treats me like I'm unworthy. Until I see from that relationship that, wow, I don't want that experience, I'm healing that to close that loop. And through these experiences, we can see what is holding me back from believing that I am worthy. And that's the gift, if you choose to accept the gift, right? So everything is God. That's the law of one. The law of one is that all is one, even these negative people who siphon energy off of us, because the darkness feeds the light. What does that mean? That we attract in dark people to remind us of our light. Because through their abuse, through their mistreatment, I'm not defending it, we see the parts of ourselves we reject and hold into shame that brought us to the experience, because we felt so unworthy and ashamed of ourselves that we attracted in someone who treated us the same way. And because of that mirror, we can then heal it and become infinite love. So these negative experiences are all gifts that can push us towards infinite love if we take the message. However, most of us refuse to look at what happened and blame the partner as toxic or narcissistic, and then we just jump back into the same experience with someone else because we refuse to heal what caused it in our own psyche and trauma and emotional blockages. So either we heal the hooks that caused the narcissistic dark person to come into our lives, or we keep going through the same experience until we see it. The darkness only creates the experience that we wish to have. Demons only come to us if they are matching the experience we want to have in life. So if I want to have a relationship that is toxic and abusive, and we separate from love and come back into this amazing sex, I will call in dark people to match that reality I want. If I want fame super fast and I want to prove myself to the world through fame, I will attract in demonic people who made that a reality. So all our life and all these demons we attract and darkness and dark people are just confirming the reality we want to live. So to heal this, you have to believe that I want to live in infinite love and infinite awareness and infinite peace. And I will not align myself with any experience that does not match those things, because if I want the opposite of that, I will have these dark beings entertain that reality I want. So now is a time to declare, I am light, I am love. I radiate light and love as a woman, and I refuse to entertain any possibilities of any romantic potential of attracting in a man who dims that down. I refuse to have that experience now, and because you refuse and you declare that to the universe, you will stop attracting in dark people who give you the experience of that opposite, because deep down you want that experience. But if you declare, I don't want this, those dark beings will stop giving you that reality. The truth is, God gives us exactly what we want to experience. And we only know what we want to experience if we get real with ourselves and understand our unconscious wounding, that keeps attracting in pain and trauma. So, to conclude and summarize, if I can say one point, it's been a pretty long solo episode, but this stuff's important. Ladies, do not let a man's darkness be the reason the world cannot see your light. Do not be the woman who never sang from her heart because there was a narcissist constantly repressing it. Refuse that shit. Your light, your love as a woman is the force that breaks the matrix, that breaks the patriarchal control and domination and subjugation to conditional love and abuse. Your voice, your authentic expression is a force that destroys this system. And the way that system gains control is they find a woman like you and use you as a battery to siphon off of and to create more dark energy. So refuse to be the reason the world cannot see your light. And that reason is believing that I am so unworthy of love that I will attract in a man who matches that perspective. All right. Thank you all very much. This is real shit. And some of the brightest people I've ever known, even currently, have either been stuck to a person siphoning their energy or are stuck currently. And it's the most common thing I've seen in all light workers. So, and again, because the partner you choose is the most important choice you make, choosing one that siphons your energy is the worst way to live. So, cheers to not making that possibility. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to watch more content, please click this video right here and don't forget to subscribe right here. Thank you.